What is your best childhood memory? Why? My stepfather designed theater sets and installed a jungle design in my room, after the play was over. There was one day in the summer of 2003 when me and all the neighborhood kids just hung around outside. We flew kites, played sports, got ice cream from a truck, etc. We spent the whole day outside doing fun stuff. I remember going to bed thinking that it was a perfect day. I still think about it sometimes. I was maybe 5 or 6, and I woke up in the middle of the night to use the restroom. It was that perfect time where everything is quiet and dark and it just feels so still. When I walked through the living room, my grandfather was sitting in his chair at the table, drinking whiskey and eating buttered saltines. He invited me to sit with him and have a snack, which felt amazing to me since individual time with him was extremely rare. The room was lit only by the warm glow of the nightlight from the kitchen. I don't remember if we talked except for when he told me I'd better be back off to bed, but I remember how it felt. I remember his presence. How big his silhouette looked, sitting across from me. How calm and soothing it was just to be there. It's that kind of memory that just wraps itself around you and envelopes you in warmth. It's one of those moments where everything falls away and nothing else exists. Just dark, quiet, and some buttered crackers. He died of cancer not long after that, and that's one of the only memories I have of him. Kinda sad, but before my brother committed suicide, he and I spent a whole day playing with Lego and building cool things. It really impacted me positively. I was about 9 at the time. Watching my stepdad call the principal of my school in 4th grade out on his bullshit right in front of me. Because it was the first time I had a father figure in my life who cared enough about me to stand up for me. Being a farm kid, sitting behind my older sister on a horse, ambling around our yard in the dark, looking up at the stars while my sister sang with the softest, most beautiful voice I've ever heard. I fell asleep leaning on her back as she sang. Epilogue. The next day at school I tried to eat a stick of chalk to make my voice softer like my sister's. It was a terrible failure. 8th grader Amanda, my first hard crush, telling 5th grade me that I was cute on the school bus. I don't know if I've ever been quite that happy again in the entire rest of my life. Don't tell my wife and kids I said that. My parents' house had a huge prairie field beyond its backyard. There was a lot of wildlife, giant ponds, and tiny forests scattered throughout a giant plain. As an introverted child I remember going on so many adventures here until the sun came down. One particular moment that sticks with me was sitting on my fence, overlooking the fields watching the sunset with my dog after a long day of playing. It's not a particularly eventful moment, but I remember thinking that moment was perfect. As a kid that grew up reading Calvin and Hobbes, I feel so fortunate I got to grow up in the area I did. It was like I was living the life of my favorite comic. Let's go exploring. When I first figured out how to play drums. It was such a stereotypical movie moment, but I used to always play on an electric kit, not very well, but as soon as I sat behind an actual kit, something clicked in my brain and my hands could move like they hadn't before. If that moment hadn't happened, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Family vacation to Colorado to ski. They piled all the grandkids, me and 7 of my cousins, in the back of the van and removed the bench seats, replaced them with air mattresses. They hooked up a TV and VHS player and we all watched the original Scream movie while eating road trip snacks and annoying the life out of our grandparents. We stopped the moment we got to where there was snow to have a giant family snowball fight. We took pictures the whole ride on disposable cameras. I think my older cousins mooned a few unsuspecting strangers. 18 hours there and 18 hours back, and the ride was just as good as the actual vacation. Not fucking thinking about tomorrow. Just woke up, hooked up with friends, spent all day playing stupid games, laughing, fighting, discovering. Nowadays if I have half a day to myself I think about how I can use it to do something work related so that I can take it easier on the working days. I was in 7th grade. My childhood crush kissing me for the first time, and last. We then went out and spent the entire day roaming around our neighborhood and held hands at sunset. We recently met again after 19 years. We've grown up different now, but that memory is still the happiest one I have. Having lunch and getting ice cream with my mum and dad when I was 9 in London. My school had organized a school trip and gave me special permission to see my dad instead of going to the science museum. We rejoined them later to go see cats. Dad works away from home. Back then, we didn't see him often, maybe a couple times a month if we were lucky. We all got lunch in near Portobello Road and then went to get the ice creams. My dad got a particularly huge one. To my mind, it was like 7 scoops. Everything seems massive when you're a kid, and it all fell onto his tie. We laughed, talked about music and their lives in London before marriage, kids. We walked down the street, holding hands, me in the middle. I know it's such a non-event memory. I'm the youngest of 3 and this was the first, and possibly last time, I spent alone time with my parents, just us 3, like I was their only kid. It made me feel special. I cherish this memory so much. The first time my mom was properly happy with her new partner. She had gone through a painful divorce after my dad cheated on her twice and taken some of her most precious belongings. She had barely been able to get custody of me. After that, she dated a sweet man who promptly died in a car accident while they were dating, and then ended up with a very abusive boyfriend. However, now, she is with the man of her dreams, and the happiest she has ever been, and because of him, I've had a real childhood, and a proper family smile. When my dad took me to see snakes on a plane as a kid. I'll never forget that snake that bit that lady's titties. Thanks, Dad. When I was 10 years old, my parents made help out back to clear out the weeds that had taken over our backyard. It was going to take a while because how crazy it was, but I was taking even longer to help because I was so distracted by the cute puppy our next door neighbor had. I found out that his parents were going to take him back to the shelter because their son wasn't taking good care of him like he promised. They offered to sell him to me for $20 and I had that saved up, so I went back and forth begging my parents if we could get him. They finally caved and he became our. I named him Snoopy and have never been as happy as I was that day. I was an only child, so I looked so much forward to having a dog to play with and go on adventures with. It's definitely my favorite memory, because he meant too much to me in the almost 17 years he was a part of my life. Here is the first picture I have of us together, where you can see on my face just how happy and excited I was. Probably when I was still on that phase where I was oblivious to the world's or even family problems. We used to be on food stamps and my parents would get us these TV dinners from a neighbor and I loved them and thought they were the best. My mom never made us feel like we were missing out, and it helped me also become grateful for everything in life. There are many, but just last night my husband said something that unlocked this one. My dad was, still is, an avid birder. He would teach me little things about birds and how to identify them by sight and call. We had a little ritual every night after dinner. We would walk outside in the darkness, all the way to the barn and back, hooting like owls to try and get the owls to hoot back at us. Sometimes it worked. Most of the time it didn't. But every time I got to spend moments with my dad that still make me so happy to think about today. I got many, but one of my favorites is when my mother got my brother and I out of school early to go to Dairy Queen for an ice cream cone. Summers spent at the lake, water skiing, swimming, fishing, and enjoying fresh fruit and vegetables from local farms. I used to wake up some days to my dad playing Wish You Were Here on the guitar downstairs and making breakfast. If this ever happened, I knew it was gonna be a good day. It's been a long time since I've heard him play that song though. I would do anything to wake up to it one more time. Thanksgiving holiday of like, 4th grade. I was playing Minecraft online with my friend, which was already nice, but I noticed that it was snowing outside. In SC, snow pretty much never comes that early, so I got up from the computer with the phone and went outside. I told my friend about it and he also went outside at his own house and we just stood there in the snow. There's nothing that particularly stands out about that experience other than just a general atmosphere of niceness, so I don't know why it's stuck with me for so long, but I like that one a lot. Me and my brother sitting inside on a cool summer day with the windows open, the smell of freshly cut grass in our noses. Our parents would be doing yard work out in our rather large yard. My older brother would play Mario and all sorts of Lego games on the Wii and I would just watch because 1. He rarely let me play, and 2. I was terrible at all of the games. But it grew on me. I came to enjoy not playing. I sat there watching, he sat there playing, for hours on end. We would eat popsicles like nobody's business, tall glasses of lemonade would go down like rocks. And we loved it, but as time went on, we sold the house, we lost interest in the Wii, and our parents got divorced. When Star Wars Episode 3 came put on DVD, I remember me and my brother waiting all day by the door for it to be posted, and when it finally came we were jumping around the room. We couldn't wait for our dad to come home from work to set up the portable DVD player to our TV, so me and my brothers laid on the floor around this tiny screen watching it. Best memory ever.